Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video. Today I'm here to give you a top 5 Wednesday, because it's Wednesday. This week's topic is top 5 underrated books. And so I've picked out 5 books that I rated 4.5 to a 5 star, and they have between 941 and 2062 rates on Goodreads. So I hope this will bring some more light to these, what I feel like are really great stories. So let's start with number 5 on my list, and that's called A Very Accidental Love Story by Claudia Carroll. This is a story about a mom who, a woman who got a child without having a husband or a boyfriend. She just went to a clinic to get sort of inseminated. And yeah, so she has this girl who's like 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember the exact age, but she's starting to ask questions about her father and who he is and why doesn't she know him and all of those things. So she has sort of figures she has to find a way to give a straight up answer. And yeah, the beginning of it, I thought I was going to hate the main character because I felt like she was so ignorant and didn't really think about her kid at all, because she had a very, very powerful job with a really big high position. I think she was a journalist, if I remember correctly. But I ended up really, really enjoying this book so much, and where it went and how people look at other people, how they judge other people and all that. They have a lot of great messages in this one. I listened to this one in audio, and I think the narrator did a terrific job in narrating it, and I just ended up really, really loving this book. Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because it got all of the emotions through me, and I think maybe the 4-year-old girl helped giving a lot of cuteness to the story as well, with some of her dialogues in this story. And A Very Accidental Love Story only has 941 rates on Goodreads, so definitely a book I think you should check out if you like chick lit books at all. The writing style reminds me a little bit of Sophie Kinsella, just not as humorous. It's a little more serious than Sophie Kinsella probably, but still really love the writing style. Coming in as number 4 on my list is actually the one with the most ratings, and that's called BlackDipped by Nancy Strait. This is the first book in a series that's called Touched, I believe. This is about a girl who finds out that she's actually part of an old legend. She is actually half a Shintower shifter. So very different sort of story I wasn't expecting at all. The only reason actually I picked this one up when I did was because I think I needed it for some sort of challenge. I got it on my Kindle for free. So anyway, the main character grew up with only knowing her mother, and then when she passed, she finally got some information from her mother about her father, so she could sort of track him down, and then she meets her whole family and find a whole new destiny for her because of her family heritage and stuff. I loved how where this book went, and I was in an emotional role through this. There were some parts where I actually ended up crying because there were some things that happened, and I felt like this was a really great young adult paranormal fantasy, and I definitely think you should check it out if you like these sort of stories. Usually I think you'd enjoy it, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, I believe. And coming in as number 3 on my list is The Christmas Stories by Tom Fletcher. This is a pretty new release. It was released in the beginning of October, but I noticed it only have 971 rates. And Tom Fletcher is a debut author. He's written picture books before with his bandmate Dougie about also a dinosaur. So this was his first regular novel. It's a younger middle grade sort of Christmas story, and it follows this little boy who loves Christmas. But apart from that, he also loves dinosaurs. He has a huge fantasy about dinosaurs. He has a father that loves Christmas so much that he hides a Christmas tree in his closet so that he could check it out every morning. Yeah, and we meet this little boy, he's 10 years old in this book, and one day discovers this little dinosaur who's called the Christmasaurus. And this is sort of their adventure story, and there's snippets from the North Pole with the Christmasaurus, Santa, and all of the elves, and then there's a lot of the storyline goes with William and how he's faring at school and stuff, and he's been a victim of bullying, and he has some issues because he's in a wheelchair, he can't really walk. But this happened after an accident where he lost his mother, so there's a lot of deeper topics in this one than just the Christmas story. So I think Tom really does a great job in sort of mixing it all together and bringing out a really cute and brilliant Christmas story for all of us. I felt like when I read this is a sort of Disney movie just in a book. Sort of how you're feeling. Obviously they're aimed at kids, but you can also tell that there's something in it for the adults as well to enjoy. Coming in as number 2 on my list is Game Set Match by Jennifer Jankopelli. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong at all. This is the first book in her Outer Banks Tennis Academy series. This only has 2 books out at the moment. I don't know how long it's supposed to be. This book follows 3 different girls as they are sort of struggling to do their best on the tennis courts. Indy just got back to tennis again after she's lost her mother. She starts on this Outer Banks Tennis Academy to sort of restart her career. And then we follow Penny, who has just won her first WTA championships, beating the number 1 player. So she's the up-and-coming new player. When she gets back to the academy, she is going to be training for the French Open, and when she's doing that she has to get a new hitting partner. But this is a man she's also known from the past called Alex, and then things sort of start to be a little more difficult for her because she has some other things to also focus on than just her tennis. And then we have Jasmine, who is grown up on a tennis court with both of her parents having won Grand Slam tournaments and all of that. So she's sort of living in the shadow of them and trying to impress them and let everyone know that she can be just as good. But she's really struggling with her tennis and doesn't really like when anyone could be better than her. I thoroughly enjoyed how this story was written. I liked following 3 different love stories in this one. I think I loved Indy and Penny's characters the most from the beginning because Jasmine was sort of a bully in the beginning, but she also changed a lot during the story. And I personally also really love all sorts of sports, and tennis is one of my favorite sports to follow. So I felt like this was just a mix of all of the things that I really love. Romances that works well, and finally one of my favorite sports mix in. This was just a really fun book. I'm so sad that book 2 was not as good. I think that book 2 was probably pretty realistic, that sometimes it doesn't go as well as usual, but overall the characters, they just changed so much in that book that for the worse, especially my favorite characters, and that's why it sort of ended up with me not liking it as much. I think I ended up giving this book 2 a 3 star, but I really love this book, so I still definitely recommend this book. So if you like sports and a good romance, this is the book for you. Coming in as number 1 on my list is going to be Your Guardian Angel by Skylar Maddie. This is a book that only had 1,079 rates on Goodreads. This is the first book in the Guardian Angel series, I believe it's called. Basically, the only reason I picked up this book is because I needed a wide title. I mean, such a random book to pick up, but this is my favorite kind of paranormal fantasy books. It reminded me a little bit of Vampire Academy, but it's difficult to explain the plot and I also feel like this book is a good book to go into without knowing too much about it. But this follows a girl who's half a goddess and half vampire, so a really strange mix of species. One day when her father, who's a vampire, brutally attacks her mother and her. He wanted to kill her at the time. But something goes wrong and he's not really successful, and she still keeps the powers that she has as a goddess. She's taken to this sort of school where they have guardian angels who are protecting these people. And yeah, it's difficult to explain the plot, and I don't want to tell too much about it, but I really loved how this book turned out, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of Vampire Academy, also because there's this sort of forbidden sort of teacher-student romance, and I thoroughly really just enjoyed this book. It was a really easy 5-star read for me, and if you like paranormal fantasy at all, I think this will be a really great book for you. Yeah, so these were the 5 books on my underrated books list. Let me know in the comments down below about any books that you've read that you just absolutely love, that's not really talked about at all. Because I always love to discover new little gems when I'm reading, and fair enough, my favorite genres are the paranormal and urban fantasy genre, so if you have any recommendations in those areas, I'd be really happy to check them out. Most of the books I have talked about today, both Your Guardian Angel Game Set Match, BlackDipped, those 3 books are usually pretty cheap on Kindle, so if you want to check them out, you can get a really great deal of them on Kindle. So yeah. Anyway, this was all I had for you today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video, hopefully very soon. Goodbye!